revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Comics YouTube channel, where we're going to go through the best comics of the week, the books that I thought were peachy keen and pretty cool. As the kids say, I say it every time that we start this show. This doesn't mean that I think any book that I don't mention was garbage. It might be, but for the most part, I can't read everything. And recently, I have had a lot of problems reading even things that I really, really do want to read. And then there's just some things I'm not that interested in, didn't give a chance, all that stuff, or I didn't know about it. So please let me know what you thought the best of were, either in the live chat, because when we first put this down, it is a live stream Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the only real time there is. And then, there's the replaying things. So you could either tell me in the live chat and we'll talk through the live chat, or if you end up on the replay, let me know, because I have added a bunch of books from people reading them and letting me know. And I will tell you right now, I'm exhausted. I don't feel well. And we recorded a lot. It's like just hours ago. We got done our Sunday morning into afternoon chat. So with all that, I don't even see a lot of people in the live chat. So there's Barlord, though, who says, hey, fellas. So we'll start things off. We'll see how things go. I know that a lot of times I say that it'll be a quick show, and it is not. Telling you, you may have the first time where you could just keep listening while I fall asleep and snore, because and even with that, when we're done here, I have to edit our Marvel Comics podcast. I have to edit the Absolute DC Comics podcast for the feed. I have a Daredevil Born Again episode I have to edit. I have a Daredevil Yellow Year 1 episode. I have an episode of Hellboy that I need to edit, and I also end up having a Mark Miller World podcast that I have to edit, plus put up polls for next week's DC show to find out what will be the Patreon spotlight and figure out what the poll for the retro book of the week will be, and also put the regular show out on a feed and make a video for it for tomorrow. I want to actually, tonight I'm planning, I want to get to bed at 10, because lo and behold, then I have to get up tomorrow at 10 a.m. I have to get up before 7 a.m. and record what appears to be about 3 to 4 hours with Wes about the state of DC Comics, the state of Marvel Comics, and the state of indie comics, something that will be out while he is doing his thing, coming to the States and going to Dallas, whatever that is. I will not be there. I have no interest in being around crowds like that, but here we are. And Barlord again. Hello, Barlord. K. Quinn says that I'm the hardest working man in comics. I think I'm the dumbest working man in comics. And yes, there's the second wind. Also, just to point out, I have mentioned it before, but I am at the moment non-medicated. So a lot of times that ends up where, because of the problems I have, I will just be going, and then like out of nowhere, I will just get awfully, like amazingly tired and very out of it. So, forgive me if that happens. And Barlord says, just hoping Marvel gets better with each passing week, but my hope goes unanswered. This is the best of. And if you are playing at home and keeping track, we haven't had a lot of Marvel books in the best of. I hate to finagle things. I hate to change the rules around, but I am probably going to have one Marvel book on the list here. And I do have to kind of change the rules to get it, but it's something that I've enjoyed. But I always do start with DC Comics. And there's a couple things on the DC side of things. And I'm sure that there'll be people who probably put even more issues that are out into the best of. But in the meantime, I will start by saying Absolute Batman just made the cut. It almost didn't. It almost slipped down below it. I'm going to put it here. It's the second part of a two-part arc with the new Mr. Freeze. I liked it enough. It wasn't my favorite issue. There's no baby kicking, so that's already, a detriment to the overall score. But I still end up liking it. I think that I was used to the art a little more this week, and I did like that play of setting up how much, especially Croc, does care for Batman. In that weird play of him saying, do you want to die? Do you want to live? And then Batman finally saying, no, no, I want to live, and then wanting to thank Croc for actually inspiring him, because that was the thought that ended up being able to help him escape the clutches of Freeze. But then when he calls him, lo and behold, he's been taken. Waylon has been taken. Looks like he's being taken to Arc M, and it looks like Bane is going to have issues with him, possibly turning him into full-out Killer Croc. We'll see. But I thought that was kind of a neat little play where the snowflakes ended up being able to marking people and getting their DNA. It kind of felt like a little bit of a take on the idea of like nanites and shots and things like that. But I thought it was played well in the universe. And I do like Waylon, though I kind of like Waylon as Killer Croc, so that would make more sense. But if that does happen, and say Waylon does end up becoming Killer Croc, how are the rest of the group going to take that? Because, again, they know that Bruce is Batman. Hey, Batman, you're supposed to help us, save us, whatnot. You weren't even be able to do that. You're doing all that nonsense. And maybe even blaming him for, if it wasn't for you doing things as Batman, maybe things wouldn't have been stepped up in other ways, and blame him for what happens with Croc. But we'll be done with Marcos Martin's art. Next issue, we'll get Nick Dragotta back with that crazy Bane look, Pinhead Bane, that a lot of people, have different opinions on. Some people, actually, I've seen, some people think, hey, it looks pretty cool. And they end up like wondering the idea of, why would Graham Nolan hate it? But Graham Nolan, the creator, co-creator of Bane, does not like the look. So you have that back and forth. And you do have to mention, is it a DC podcast? Well, with Best of It, it might be. There's some indie books. And I said, I'm going to put one Marvel book on the list. Or if you're asking if this was legit the DC podcast, it is not. I think that the DC podcast this week ended up being almost 5 hours. It's actually a pretty short for what we've had, but we ended up having a retro review in there of Supergirl's first appearance, which is very fun. We ended up, me and my man Jared from Comics League, we talked about the Legends of Wonder Woman, a book that I really liked back in the day, a digital first book, things like that. And and Barlord said a big spoiler for issue 9 hit earlier for Absolute Batman. I'll tell you, this is how crazed and busy I end up getting. I actually have issue 9 and 10 of Absolute Batman. I don't think I'll get around to reading them. A lot of times, like with issue 10, I don't really want to read it that far ahead. I'm going to have to read it again anyway, and I kind of like to wait. But I was going to check out 9, but I haven't yet, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We also have, Kay Quinn says, I need an editor. I do need an editor. So does half of the writers at DC. And maybe a good editor there. I actually, at one point, I talked to a guy, and I said, listen, because this guy does like video. It's a guy that Wes knows, but it's like, hey, he does videos, he does this. I said, I don't need help with videos. What I need is, I need to be able to get done an episode of a podcast and just send it away. They send it back. And in the meantime, instead of me taking an hour and a half to edit something, I could get 2 other podcasts. I mean, I'm telling you, I could rack out 20 a day if that's the case. And then with that amount of freedom, I would end up doing maybe some more videos, a little more of the things. And so the guy's like, okay, well, we'll see how this is, and we'll go. And he's like, here's the deal. And it was like, starting price per month was like $6,000. I'm telling you, I'm like, yeah, I think I'll do that myself. I don't have $6,000 just because I feel like then I'm just lazy. So yeah, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Though in the meantime, all the things I've done, whatever, I hope that I have gotten a little bit of skill doing some editing. And I think at one point when I get real tired of stuff, I might just end up trying to do podcast editing as the job. Dirty Songs podcast editing. The problem is, I hate editing. I can't stand it. It's the worst. I used to like it. I used to actually say that it was almost like the idea of solving a puzzle. You get all these things, you're gonna try to get, "Hey, let's get that, little bit of space out. Ooh, they said that. Let's get rid of that and ah." I actually I got a kick out of it. I'll tell you. But like a lot of things with my crazy ass head, the things that were interesting at one point become the most boring, monotonous, over the top, like I don't want any parts of them things, and that's where I am in this mode. But I jump back and forth. Yes, Brandon, you are right. I'm like Wonder Woman when it comes to editing. And again, people on the Patreon, I feel guilty sometimes because people on the Patreon, oh man, there's so many shows legit right now to tell, and Brandon will be one of them. Elseworlds podcast, right? That Elseworlds. I think I have 5 episodes that I have to edit. And I also have 2 Manga Monday episodes that I have to edit. I have just tons. A lot of Death Note episodes waiting for Luke Hollywood to get back to doing some things. But I do have a lot of things that are done. I have to edit, but I kind of keep things. I have a new way of doing things too. Because I do record with probably about 12 different people over a week. And sometimes people can't make it. And the thing is, I'll never sit there and say to somebody, "Oh, you mean you can't show up for that thing that you do for me for free that I get paid?" Like, you can't do that. So if somebody does say, "Listen, I can't do that this week," I don't get mad. But what I end up now doing is I'll always have an extra episode so that if they can't, I could kind of keep things going. Also, Brandon might know, Fear Monarch, we do have a TMNT podcast that is on straight up hiatus because Brandon has to figure out what day he can record, because we used to record on a Wednesday night, but he can't do that anymore. And why not? I wish one of my kids was here to edit it for me. I am ditched. I saw my son after I did the show this morning. I went to take a shower at my son's house. Suddenly, here's the, usually these are the things that people don't talk about on podcasts. I end up going to the bathroom, and then I hear Zach, my second oldest son, but it's his apartment. He's outside, and he goes, "Hey, Dad, come out, quick." I'm like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I come out, he's standing nude with a cowboy hat on. And I went, what the? And he goes, "I'm naked cowboy." And I'm like, "Great, naked cowboy, great." Then he sends me a picture later saying, "Hey, don't you like naked cowboy?" with him as naked cowboy. I'm like, "You're lucky that I don't just put this out on the internet, you idiot." Then in the meantime, with that, I went and I was talking to my son, Rafe, and he was high as shit. That annoyed me. And then Logan was taking a shower when I did message him and said, "I'm coming to take a shower. Is anybody taking a shower right now?" "No, nobody is," Logan says. I get there, he's in the shower. So I guess he was telling the truth at that moment. It was really, really getting upset. But yeah, that's the thing is we're at the City on Fire, City at War, whatever. I always mix it up. We're at the biggest thing going on in the Mirage comics, and Brandon just hasn't been able to do it. And we're still planning on it. That show is not canceled. It's still going. We just have to get back to it. So there's things like that as well. And we have all those manga. I think I have a couple episodes of our Demon Slayer and a couple episodes of the My Hero Academia that I just ended up not editing because we haven't done it in so long. But yeah, there you go. The life of an editor. I feel like sometimes that's something that does end up kind of being pushed aside that people don't realize. But I think at points I feel more like I'm the Weird Science editor than anything else. And it's not fun. You just sit there and you got the thing. Like I said, I used to convince myself it was like a puzzle. Doing that, but back to the best of. It's the best of Jim bitching about the stuff that he has to do. And I say that, and I am very aware that I end up doing a lot of this stuff as my job. And it's a lot better than getting yelled at and having to wake up at 6 a.m. every day and whatever. I'll bitch and moan, but I realize that I shouldn't. So the next book, though, is Aquaman. Aquaman number 5. I loved it. Maybe one, it's weird. I think it is my favorite issue this week. People are going to say that there's a certain Image book that might be an Image / Skybound book that might be their favorite. It's not quite, but Aquaman #5, Jeremy Adams and John Timms. I think that this issue, it ended up where there's a mystery. What happened to Mara, Atlantis, Andy? Andy gets pushed aside a bit. And the whole Omega in the Blue, I ended up playing the song from earlier that I made for it. All that is good, right? All that's fine. But what really is getting me in the story is just it's damn fun. And it started almost in a non-book thing where most people have heard, I talked about it here, where Jeremy Adams, when he made this whole tri-lance saber, the trident that's a sword, and he ended up sending videos of him jumping around, probably, or should probably be like Star Wars kid in his garage to show John Timms. He ended up making this tri-lance saber. He went and bought stuff at like Home Depot and Michael's or something. And he ended up making the tri-lance, and I'm like, that's a lot of fun. And the issue was fun. But this issue, when you actually go and you have badass Aquaman, which we've had, but the idea where they end up, he saves, kind of gets not Merlin, Nemo. And we're not talking Finding Nemo, the classic Nemo, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The Nautilus, the ship is there. But then they're like, what we have to do is we have to go and find out, get the Nautilus. The only way to do that is to get arrested. So he goes, I'll leave that to me. And he goes to that front thing and says, hey, I hear that if you badmouth Dagon, that you end up getting arrested. Is that right? Yes, it is. Okay, F Dagon. And then he just busts through. He lets himself get beat up. Then he goes, it's so good. It was so fun. And the only thing that pulled me back a bit, because I think, gave it a 9.3, something like that. The only thing that pulled me back is the Nautilus is a huge thing. That's an epic thing, the ship. And I wish that we would have gotten a little more detail with it. I wish we would have had like a full page spread. I wish that it would have looked cooler. That's the only thing. It's still cool because it's the Nautilus, but I think it could have been a little bit cooler. But other than that, I thought it was damn good. That was a damn good issue. And then the next one, very close to it, is the Green Lantern Corps, a book that is really quickly making its way to be my favorite book. I think I do like it more. Now, I do love Guy Gardner, or as I like to call him, Guy Gardner. He's my favorite Lantern, so I do like that he is featured. And you end up where he's with is it Narf, I believe, right? Narf is the guy. Now, if you want to talk about some things, and I did say in the podcast that I think that Narf is, and yeah, classic naked cowboy bit. It's amazing. I should expect it as the full thing, because I, back in the day, would do some crazy stuff like that. I would end up doing weird stuff. Like, I'd end up where if I had anything, like if I had one of my old hockey jerseys, which, hockey jersey will go down a little lower, I would be there and I wouldn't have pants on and be like, wait a minute, I better bend over and pick that up. And then my ass cheeks are there. But this is what happens when you have 5 boys, where you're like, all right. But yeah, I love, as Fear Mark says, old bowl cut. But when you get Guy, the best way to show Guy, in my mind, is to have somebody like Narf, who ends up being this little cute little teddy bear-like lantern. Doesn't look like he's going to amount to anything. Why is he even a lantern? Now, Guy, who is a really good guy, but he kind of puts himself behind this tough facade. Now he's dealing with this cute little guy. And you get in the issue, even reading between the lines, you get the idea that Guy is kind of liking him near by the end, but legit to me, we said it on our podcast, which in this, I knew that I was enjoying it because I end up getting so excited about this book. I think we talked about it for over an hour. Me and Brad talked about it on our podcast. So we're going, and I said, the thing is, we both agreed that if somebody did or said anything to Narf, I think that it's already at a point where Guy would have went nuts. But also Guy will, if you're in the Corps with him, you're a brother, you're a sister, whatnot, and he will go with it. But, and I'm telling you, I love the no pants deal. That's the best. So you end up where Guy keeps saying, like, what is up with this Narf? Now, in the meantime, if I'm not mistaken, the old, Masters of the Universe, there's kind of a character that looks a lot like Narf, I believe, called Snarf. and is what I think is the same thing. And people bringing up the idea of Battle Beast, it's just the greatest thing to play into this week is the idea that I think Narf ends up being almost Battle Beast. I think that when he gets called on, maybe you have to feed him or get him wet after midnight. I don't know. But I think that if he's really threatened, then there's a key thing in this where he keeps saying to Guy, are we in trouble yet? And Guy is so egotistical. He's like, no, we're not in trouble. Okay. Hey, Mr. Gardner, are we in trouble yet? And I think that if and when you have somebody do something, say Evil Star, who they are fighting, do something to Guy, maybe knock him out. Because you're going to go after Guy. You're not going to think anything of Narf. I think he turns into a battle beast. And I think he just decimates everybody in the room. And then Guy wakes up and goes, what the hell happened? And Narf's like, I don't know. It'll be so good. That's all I want. I want Narf to end up being battle beast. Full out. 100%. I think it might happen. It might happen with that. And yeah, actually, Brandon, somebody did. Well, here's the thing. We're still in the Patreon deal where one person said that they quit because there wasn't enough shows, right? But on the opposite side, there's been about 5 over the years that quit because there was too many. I don't understand that. And I don't understand I think maybe what happened is at one point we averaged 2 shows a day for over now 6 years. That's in 6 years, we still average 2 episodes a day of something. At one point, I think there was like 4 shows coming out a day. Everybody's fired up. It has been a little less, but it's still a lot, but it doesn't seem like a lot when you were getting 4. I don't know. I don't get it. But yeah, Green Lantern Corps, I thought was a lot of fun. Yeah, you're not dealing much with the Sorrow Lantern, but Guy and Narf are there to try to find Starbreaker. They go to Evil Star to try to find out where Starbreaker is and to get some people with their eyes and ears on the pulse of the streets trying to find him. So that ties into that. In the meantime, you get Kelly with Simon, which makes sense. Simon was very protective of at least her comatose body in the Jeffrey Thorne run. Kelly is a weird character. Whether you like her or not, whether it's like, we already have enough Earth Lanterns, which we had enough Earth Lanterns decades ago, and you add more. But I like most of them. And in fact, I don't really have an Earth Lantern that I don't like. I like all of them. The shame for me isn't that there's too many. It's that there's not a lot of room for them. Simon has kind of gotten the shaft, but he looks like he'll turn up in the Justice League Red. So at least he has something to do there. But he has been protective of Kelly. The problem with Kelly is Bendis never really developed her character at all. I think the character is neat enough. I always like young heroes. I like that they're all spunky and ready to go and they're optimistic and hopeful. But Kelly just kind of was there. It was more of a concept. Bendis at this point, I think, is more of the idea, I'm going to come up with concepts that are very quite like, say, Riri. Teen Lantern always remind me of Riri. And so I think, though, that's what his concept is. I'll throw this out there, and then I'm good enough to develop it later. And then he didn't. He didn't have enough room, space, and then ran out of time and doesn't do anything at DC. So the character just kind of flounders. Ginny Hex is the same thing. I mean, just the idea. Ginny Hex, I think, sounds like such a cool character. I want more of her. But what do you get? I mean, you get that basic concept. Oh, it's a, relative of Jonah Hex, who ended up, she did inherit the one artifact, but you never did anything with her. Teen Lantern's cool because she ends up finding this gauntlet that looks like Krona's gauntlet, but isn't, but maybe. And then from there, you got nothing. So they're going to look like, and Jeremy Adams is very good, whether it's him or Morgan Hampton writing it, it's still both of them coming up with the story concept. And Jeremy Adams, he showed it with Heroes in Crisis. He's able to turn shit into diamonds. And I hope that it makes more sense, because the idea that the what's it called? Damn it, the Federation of Planets. I want to call it, it's not Star Trek, whatever the hell it's called now. I'm telling you, I am tired. They ended up grabbing Kelly because they said, oh, she can hack and she has the Spectrum. It didn't make any sense, but they're trying to do something. I'm actually surprised she's even in the book. It's one of those where I like the character enough. I'd like to see her develop, but there's not a lot of room. And Ellie, the construct, is just bound to go wrong. Making constructs of dead people is not good. Hal Jordan should be right there saying, I won't go for this black magic. I don't need it. I don't need this mumbo jumbo. But you end up with Brandon. Oh, Brandon with the pants. Adam Frey, welcome to the deal. Says, speaking of Battle Beast, does anyone need a stack of David Finch variants from my blind bags? Oof. Maybe some people would. You could throw those out there, right? Barlord says they just were looking for a reason. If you're paying for content and get a ton of it, I call that getting what you paid for and then some. Yeah, I think the person was just being a jerk, or he had maybe he was only there because of the TMNT show and it's on hiatus, or maybe it's one of those that I never can tell. Some people, when it's weird because they'll end up going to the Patreon. You could pay from $1. Makes you holler up to, say, 20, or you can pay whatever you want. There's actually a guy, Manship, who, God bless his soul, I haven't heard from him in a while, but he's still on the page. I thought at one point he was dead, but he ends up where he pays like $50 each month, and he seems to be happy. I wish he'd talk to me. He used to write in, and they were the best. He would write in. This is where our podcast, and you can tell my nonsense would lead to it, but he would write in and just tell us about his Frisbee golf. His disc golf, he called it. I said, I'm not going with disc golf. It's Frisbee. Please. But yeah, we had fun. At one point, he was being chased by like wildcats or something. It ended up in hot pants. He also had a story where he was going around in hot pants for no reason. I don't know why. He's married, has kids. He's going around in the hot pants, listening to, I assume, a boombox on his shoulder on rollerblades, and then ended up in the middle of like a biker gang parade. That was a pretty good story. That was pretty good. But we'll continue on with the best of some books, and I'll give you some that almost made the cut, or some that I may have wanted to make the cut but didn't. I was rooting for Supergirl this week. I really wanted to be good. I'm not the biggest Sophie Campbell fan. I do like her art. Her writing, though, is a little off sometimes. And this issue, while I am interested. And by the way, I did record the review before the solicits came out, and legit, the solicits did end up verifying that my theory of what was going on, which I thought, oh my God, I'm so clever. It did verify it almost in the way that it looks like I just looked up solicits, but I didn't. I promise. I kind of figured out who the villain was, and then she's mentioned in the new solicits. So that was a shame. A shame for me trying to prove my massive intelligence. But I really would have liked to have liked that book. I thought that it got stuck between trying to be Silver Agey, but also trying to prove, hey, look, I know Supergirl. There's a lot of references that are references in the line of, hey, everybody, you probably didn't hear that about that, but I did, because I did a deep dive and I know what I'm talking about. I know that you'll laugh, but I'm hoping that somebody's competent enough somewhere that if you get hired on a book, you at least know the character. And even if you didn't, I would assume that you will. It is a weird play that you have to convince people that you know the character, you're writing the character. So please, Leah Williams, that didn't stop her. Right? She didn't care. She didn't care at all. She's just like, how dare you? Paige Stetler. Screw that Karen Page. Page it is, because, PG, Page. And it's like a blank page, John said. It's the worst. People went on and on about Drake, for Tim Drake. That was awful. But in the meantime, Page is, I have a couple parody songs based on that, but I can't put them on YouTube or they'll get shut down because they're based on Turn the Page and something else, the Bob Seger song, and then there was another one on something else. But I do believe that is it for me at DC. I'm trying to find this, but when I do this stuff, I get all fired up and I start Xing out things and looking at stuff. But I do believe that is my last of my best of there at the DC. Batman and Robin almost made it. It did not. I think that the story is dragging a little, though I did like the issue, but it's still dragging a little. And there's other stuff that I didn't quite like that I might argue with people about. But we'll move to Marvel. There's one book, I think, thinking of it. Yeah, Daredevil I liked last issue. I thought it was kind of cool. You get out of the 19-issue arc of the Seven Deadly Sins. It's funny, like, in my mind as an editor, I'd be like, Seven Deadly Sins, 19 issues, something doesn't add up. I said one of my things as an editor that it'd be an edict. There's a lot of edicts. If you ever saw, there's the thing at Marvel where you're only supposed to have so many words in a word bubble and so many word bubbles per page. That used to be a thing. That went out the wazoo. I think Vita Ayala crushed that multiple times. So did Danny Lore with their nonsense. But in the meantime, my edict would be as a deal. You have a book. You can't have more plot threads / mysteries than you have issues. You can't be the third issue in and have 7 plot threads dangling. That's too much going on in that amount of issues. You can't do it. That would be, and I don't even know if it works that way, but in my mind, it clicks. The idea that you can't have too many crap things like that. And that's what some of these books end up doing. And the Daredevil thing, Seven Deadly Sins, that just got drawn out. But it did remind me. And the book that actually made me think that was actually a Tom Taylor book. It was the Titans book. At one point, we had like 17 mysteries and 3 stupid things, and they all freaking went thud. Let's look at the Marvel things. One World Under Doom. How about that? People were telling me, oh my God, this was a really good issue. There's like 4 10s. That book was garbage. It's not political garbage like it was. It's still garbage. The idea that you end up having things in an event that happen off panel, which is what happened where Dormammu somehow, we're just told in the recap, hey, by the way, he got rid of all the heroes. They're just gone. Then in that you then have Doctor Doom being the Sorcerer Supreme, that they're like, oh, you used all that power. When did you use that? Was it just to duplicate yourself all those times? Multiplicity to get the deals done with the leaders? Because that doesn't seem like it would take that much power. We haven't seen him do much at all. And even that was kind of off panel because they end up finding that by reading people's minds. So most of the action, most of the things they're referencing have all happened off panel. And I've seen Peter Parker be more of a Sorcerer Supreme than Dr. Doom has at this point. And that is frustratingly annoying. And so when you have Dormammu say, oh, I was able to come in here because you have let down shirked your duties as Sorcerer Supreme. I'm like, yeah, because he hasn't done shit. But then it's like, oh, no, he's just doing too much. And he has the power to take me down. But then he wouldn't be Sorcerer Supreme anymore. I'm like, well, when did that become a thing? Like, that's weird. I just think that he'd be a Sorcerer Supreme who kind of depleted his power and it would come back eventually. I'm telling you. And then you fight, and then in the fight, Dr. Doom ends up schnickting, and he's going to optic blast. He's going to flame on, which to me is 1,000,000% below Doom. Doom's not going to end up trying to defeat Dormammu when it really would be the idea that he wants to do it to prove that he's the best Sorcerer Supreme. And where I think that what he would do is, hey, Doctor Strange and you, he says it in the issue, Doctor Strange and him go back and back. Dormammu and him always go to a stalemate. No stalemate in here. I'm going to kill your ass. I'm going to kill you and rid this world of any threat that you'll ever have. But no way is he going to do it where then later they're like, oh, you were only able to do it because you used Wolverine schnick power, which was a weird play. It was all fan service nonsense. Still say it might be the best issue of the event. And I still, on the podcast, I gave it a 3 or a 2. This event is just complete and utter garbage. I'm looking in the deal here of the live chat. The art wasn't for me at all. Maybe talking about the Supergirl. It just looks like an all ages deal. I said, and people aren't really reading that Fire and Ice book. I'm reading and reviewing it. Those two go so well together. It's like this pocket continuity dimension that really won't matter in the long run. And Supergirl deserves to matter in the long run. It just feels like the book is a little off. It's a little off. It's something that almost plays off like it should have been more of a World's Finest-esque thing as well. Just doesn't work very well. But Brandon says, Sophie really wanted to show off how much she knew from Wiki page. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like she deep dove into the DC Wiki. Okay, let me see some interesting things. Ooh, that guy died. I'll reference that. Ooh, what? She used to hide her clothes into a hollowed out tree. Notice that when you're reading the book, Supergirl, that anytime she's going to drop these things as this, hey, look at me, I know, it's in a thought bubble because it's almost just an editor's note. It's almost just an aside. It never affects the plot. It's just random things. There's even the point where this doppelganger, squirts the purple stuff because they ain't drinking Sunny D in Midvale. So ends up squirting the purple stuff, which makes a symbol on Kara's chest instead of the super symbol. It's never explained what that is. Everybody seems to react, but that was never explained. Instead, she thinks in her mind, man, I was told by so-and-so that nothing could get to the thing. And that's just like a weird little aside to say, oh, I know who made the costume, but it didn't mean anything in the issue. None of these things meant anything. And then yet the one big thing that she would know is that it's Les Lallar, who is pretty much the doppelganger always of Kara and always does, end up assuming Kara's thing. And that was the one that should have been explained, but you didn't get that. So Edward said the Supergirl book almost made me quit comics. I'm going to hang with it, and I hope it gets better. It could. There might be some fun things. Who knows? Edward also probably shouldn't have read it right after Welcome to Smallville. Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. I did see somebody, and it was on the Comic Book Roundup, speaking of reviews and things. And this guy, it's like, this guy doesn't like anything. And you think I don't like anything. This guy is where he'll find, like, the things that he doesn't like. One book, I can't remember what it was. It's a current book. He didn't like it because he thought that the logo on the cover was a little bit lame and it wasn't really well thought out, so he gave the issue a 1. I'm like, what? He's also busy right now where he'll see previews to issues that aren't out for weeks. He'll already give it 1, saying, that preview art looked lame. I'm like, what is going on? But had a problem with the Supergirl because he's like, they mentioned this and that, and it's like the weirdest thing. It wasn't even a deep dive anything, but also we have... Brandon says, the heroes vanish off panels if the series is rushed when it's dragging so much. Yeah, in the One World Under Doom, the heroes are... It's only because you end up where you want to artificially just have Doom versus Dormammu, but you could just have that. I don't think anybody would have called out the idea. When how many times have we seen Doctor Strange fight Dormammu? Do you sit there and say, man, it's bullshit that Iron Man didn't get involved? Man, it's what you know what the problem is, and I'll tell you there, Brandon. I think the problem is that they haven't done anything with Dr. Doom as Sorcerer Supreme, so they don't think that's even sunk in with anybody. Because normally, Dormammu fighting Sorcerer Supreme, that's fine, and that'd be an awesome pizza. But you end up where but you're not thinking of that. You don't think of Doom as Sorcerer. You have to kind of be reminded because we haven't seen much of it. I said we've more seen Peter Parker. So they want to get Doom versus Dormammu, so they end up having to artificially put the heroes in a pocket dimension. Why didn't Dormammu put Dr. Doom in the pocket dimension? He said all the words, and you never really explained it. And then when Doom rectifies it by sending Doombots off into the... Why didn't you just take the heroes out? And then at the end, for the coup de grace, Doom should have said in the last page, and I bet you some people who read it thought he did, because he should have said, Avengers assemble. To me, my Avengers. Avengers assemble. No, it was Cap. Cap, who kind of looked like a zombie, but says, rushing ahead was very Tom King and Wonder Woman when he skipped ahead issue 1 with all that. Yeah. All of a sudden, oh my God, the Amazons, they're fugitives. They're in trouble. And then kind of got rid of that. The way that I explain it in a way that I think I try to be funny with it, but it's going nowhere slow. Maybe the worst combo of anything. And that's what this Doom... We're only halfway through. Here we go. Back to the... Now I just talked about the book I didn't like. This is supposed to be a positive podcast, but I did want to mention that's an event book. I wish it was good. And some of the other things. Gwenpool #1. I've gone on record. I like Gwenpool. This issue felt weird. I don't think Kevin Scott quite gets the character, and what he's writing is not a character. He's writing full-out shtick. He's writing full-out caricature, not character. It plays off as what people end up doing. You might say Deadpool, but I would go more with Harley. People can't get past themselves when they do Harley. You can't have 1 second of breather. You can't have one bit of actual character that actually might be upset, confused, angry, inspired. No, what you get is reference, 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 joke, reference, joke. And then at the end, you feel like you went 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. And it may or may not have bitten your ear off. It's crazy. And that's how I felt at the end of Gwenpool, that I thought, here we go again. It's just another person. And then when that book fails, people will blame Gwenpool. I go by the tenet that a lot of people say, there's no bad characters. There's only bad writers. And I know there's a lot of writers who, if they were doing Gwenpool, it would be kick ass and everybody would love it. It's just that first off, those writers wouldn't do it, maybe because they wouldn't like. But the idea that usually what Marvel does, or DC with characters like this, is they just think they don't give the character or their fans enough respect. They end up saying, okay, everybody's going to bitch them out anyway, so just throw them on it. Just let them do what they want. Yeah, what? You want to tell all jokes and references and not really have a story? Yeah, whatever. Go for it. Go for it. Do it. So, yeah, do it, Doug, is what they yell, I hear. But the book I am going to put in as one of my best of is Red Hulk #4. My score on the podcast was a little lower than what I usually would put in for a best of, but I do want to point it out. One of the reasons why is because if you do go to Comic Book Roundup, you kind of know the lay of the land. If you've been there, you get the critic reviews and you get the user reviews. Usually a book will get, I mean, it's all over the place, but as an average, you'd get 5 critic reviews and maybe 8 to 11 user reviews on some books. This is a tie-in book. It's Red Hulk. I would assume that you'd have at least 5 critic reviews. And like I said, 5 to 10, I'll say, of the user reviews. You have 2 critic reviews and 1 user review. Nobody knows about it. Nobody, because I think a lot of people are just like, what? It's a tie into One World Under Doom. Well, I'm not reading that, so I'm not reading that. And it's a good book. It goes beyond being, and I even looked, one of the 2 reviews is just straight up AI. So there you go. I'll just read it. I won't say what it is, but you can check it out. Red Hulk #4 is a gripping installment that combines action, character development, and thematic depth, making it a standout in the series and a must-read for fans following the event. That is not true of any of those. And that is a straight-up lame, and I've done where you can put it through. You can go online, because they use that for, like, kids doing papers and things. Put that through one of those AI checker-outers, I think they call them officially, and that will tell you 99% AI. It's all AI, this site does, and it drives me nuts, unless the one person isn't doing the review. But when you see his name, it's there. But so you really have 1 review and 1 user review, and it's a shame because the book is good. It's Ben Percy, Jeff Shaw on art. And one of the problems has been that once they end up escaping from this prison, there isn't a Red Hulk because Ross, he's ungammed, but they have to get to this power plant. And when they get there, Doom and the thing, he pops in. One of the few books that we see that Doom is up to no good, or at least has done some nefarious things, which I like. But never really has. If you're not reading the One World Under Doom, it doesn't matter. You can read this and enjoy it. It's a prison escape, and now they're just like, almost like the fugitive. They're out and on the run. But they go to this power plant. The power plant's gone. It's disappeared. They go then to this village around it. They start working. You get Machine Man back. But the idea that Ross needs to be gammed, and I didn't even see it coming. What he does is he pretty much just lets a nuclear missile blow everything up around him so they can gamma up. And you could sit there and say, well, he would die beforehand. That's what Deathlock says. Deathlock says, it's not going to work. You're going to die. And he's like, yeah, we'll take that chance. He says, if I'm lying, I'm dying, and I'd rather be dead than be this. And we're never going to escape, so it's worth the effort. So it works. It doesn't work, but it works because they mention it in that way, and I thought it was pretty good. And at the end, you do get Red Hulk. So now the covers aren't lying. And I think that the book gets even better as we go forward. And they're going to try to take it to Doom. And Doom is definitely not going to want them to get on the, come out of the woodwork, because he has done some things. That prison they were in, they specifically mention, this thing is huge. There's got to be thousands of prisoners in here, and that would make Doom look really bad. And lo and behold, it's one of the books that's going to be going and going until the end and maybe beyond. the whole one world under doom, it could end up becoming important. By the end, we shall see. But that's it at Marvel. And I haven't read all of the indie stuff, but I have read 2 books. I'll go through these real quick. The one is Battle Beast. That is one of the best ofs. I love Robert Kirkman. I love the Invincible Universe, but lo and behold, again, one of the people I've heard say, hey, I've never really read Invincible. I watched a couple of the episodes, or I read a little. You don't really need to. It's just a great book. It looks great. It's a really cool deal. It wasn't my favorite book this week. Again, in my mind, it drug on a little too much. I'm the only one who says that, but I think that by the end I was like, all right, I get it. I'm good. And you go forward, and I'm looking forward to continuing whatnot. But I thought it was pretty cool. In the meantime, lo and behold, I didn't read Geiger yet. I'm going to be doing our indie podcast with it. I did not read it yet. The reviews are through the roof. I'm looking forward to finding out maybe what happens with Ash Arden, the glowing woman, and can't wait to read that. And I'm sure that once I do, I'll think, boy, that would have been on my best of, because I really, really like that book. The other book that I will put in there, and I did go and I, just for everybody here, I ended up reading Flash Gordon. I am a little bit behind on it. I'm 2 episodes. I'm 2 issues behind on Flash Gordon, but I wanted to be able to talk about it for this, and I did end up liking it. There's only one review. Again, it's Mad Cave, so you're not going to get a lot of push, whatever, but Gabe is the only one who reviewed it. He gave an 8. I would probably go with that, and what we end up finding out is what was going on, the mystery behind Dale Arden. Pretty cool, especially if you're a Flash Gordon fan. That is something that has been like, what the heck? Almost to the point of Baroness being part of the Joes in G.I. Joe. It's kind of like, well, what's going on? That's weird. But we do find out what was happening, and it makes sense enough. Jeremy Adams is fun. I did want to read Speed Racer. It's the number 0 issue that came out for Free Comic Book Day. I'm a Speed Racer fan, and the fact that I would read something with Speed Racer, I'm not going to say that I'm like, oh my God, they better get Racer X right. Chim Chim better be on the up and up. Like, I don't care that much, but I think it could be a pretty cool property. I'm assuming that what you do is just get them involved in a racing tournament. That's what it says. Part Baby Driver, another part Fast and Furious. You know why I don't like that? Because it's already a thing. I know that, I'm old, but it's already a thing. To say that Speed Racer is part Baby Driver and part Fast and Furious, I think that Fast and Furious is part Speed Racer and Baby Driver. It's a weird play, but I know they do that. But you also have a backup with Mark Russell, which, I don't need that stuff. It's David Pepose on the regular story, where I do like David Pepose on Space Ghost and Space Ghost only. I haven't liked anything else from him. That Punisher deal that he did was god-awful. Captain Planet was a really cringe, but it's kind of because the property's cringe, so I won't blame him for that. But overall, that's about it. That is about it for me for the books. But there were some good books. And looking at some of the things, because I'm already having to kind of coordinate next week's podcast. And DC has a couple things that I'm really looking forward to, so I'm looking forward to that. And Marvel actually has some things. I'm not going to say that they're the greatest of things, but there are things that I'm usually kind of excited about. So we'll have a bunch of things. And if you haven't, please check the show notes, the description of the video, where there's links to all of our podcasts, all of our things going on, including our Patreon, where you can go and help us out for everything we do and, get a lot of shows. I said from the beginning, I'd heard a lot of shows. Patreon became a big thing. It was the hot ticket. And then people were just like, hey, go to our Patreon, because without you, we can't turn on the lights. And then I think, like, really? If you can't turn on the lights, maybe you should be doing something other than podcaster right now. Maybe you need a second job there, pal. And then in the meantime, you would go, and that's all you're doing. You're just like, oh, I can give you $5 a month just because. And that always felt weird to me. And that, legit, that was at a time when we were doing 13-hour podcasts, and I didn't think that would be enough for people to put down money. I really don't take that lightly. So I just ended up making a ton of shows. There are a ton of shows. I said it earlier. I will mention it again because, you got to be proud of something. And maybe your insanity is something you should be proud of while you do a ton of podcasts, because I do a Podcast Addict. That is the app that will tell you how many episodes you've had. Also, a lot of times it'll give you the amount of hours. The problem is, I think the Patreon crashes it for some reason, because it ain't telling me anything with that. But I told people this morning on our Patreon started around 2019, I believe. We've had 4,513 episodes on the Patreon. So we do, and that says it averages still 2 a day, 2 episodes a day for over 6 years. So that's pretty cool, I think. You may like some of the shows, you may not, but I think there's enough for everybody there. So even though some people have quit and said there's not enough, you only had 8 million shows today. So with that, though, just include these live streams in as well. They're pretty cool. But I'll go to the chat right before we end this. Gwenpool is a book that shouldn't exist. I like Gwenpool. I think the character is pretty fun, but it shouldn't exist if it's written by Kevin Scott or somebody who doesn't care to make the character better. Saying that rushing ahead was very Tom King. God forbid they greenlight a good pitch from someone that wants to take on a character. They don't take pitches. Most of the companies don't take pitches. They end up being told what they're going to write, so they can kind of, make things go the way they want. I mean, if you're going to do the thing, I think in their mind, they're like, okay, we have to get all these books. We have a Fantastic Four movie coming out, so we need this, 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 and this. And then somebody shows up and says, I have a great pitch for, I don't know. I have a great pitch for a Cosmic Ghost Rider book. And they're like, get out of town. We don't need your nonsense. Also, I think they're probably worried because these editors, this is more DC, but they're afraid that somebody might actually be good with their own story and won't need the editor. I don't know. Edward says, this is my first Red Hulk book. Listen to you and got the issue I missed. Marvel owes you a referral fee. See, that happens. I was going back and looking. And legit at one point during the Flash run, Jeremy Adams actually sent me a note and said, he's like, legit, I don't want to, sound like I'm blowing smoke up your ass or anything like that. But 90% of the people who end up coming and talking to me at conventions mentioned that they heard you talking about how great my writing is, and he wanted to thank me. And I thought that was really nice. Edward says Flash Gordon is a banger every month. It is. Jenny might even say it's a banger. She might say it twice because somehow that's messed up. Jenny from Blackpink loves Flash Gordon. You'd never know that. Jack Halsey says Space Ghost really good as well this week. I didn't read it yet this week. And yeah, Jeremy Adams had a pretty damn good week. Brandon says Marvel has me excited to walk by all the books at my LCS as I buy Ghost Machine. Yeah, here's the thing. I love Redcoat. I think is now my favorite. I love Geiger, love it, love Rook, but that's not here nor there. I don't really care for Hyde Street, and I could care less about the Tomasi books. Hornsby and Halo sounds like some yacht rock band from back in the day. And the Rockefellers, I mean, is there a pacing? I'd like to say it's slow pace. I don't even think there's a pace, but the last issue had a pretty cool cliffhanger. Yeah, Space Ghost is good, but again, I still don't really like David Pepose. He gets on my nerves. But that book is good. That book is good. Yeah. So, yeah. And Mark Rydell says, I don't like any of those books, jokey characters. Now, this is the thing. That's because that's the only way they know how to write them. Those characters don't have to be jokey. In fact, the jokes could be based on the idea of a good character. And then you'd realize, oh my God, this has depth. But they don't do anything more. And then somebody like Mark will never like the characters because they assume that's the only way that you can get those. Some of the best Harley books are not when she's breaking the fourth wall, when she's doing things. I'll tell you, if you read the new Suicide Squad, I think it was by Sean Ryan, there is a Harley in that is not a caricature. It's not somebody cracking wise every 2 seconds. You actually get a lot of feelings and realize why Harley is like that. And not even surface level of, I joke because I care. It actually goes into more depth with that, and you actually realize, holy crap. Harley is a doctor. She's a PhD. She is a therapist. She has all that, but that's just thrown out the window. That was just there to get joke or deal, and then since then, it's nothing. Even when there's jokes or whatever, there's an arc in the Palmiotti Connor run. Don't read the mini if you ever get inspired, but there is a Power Girl Harley arc that's really good. And it's because Harley ends up, she's just there in the mall, eating Sports Masters there doing nonsense, right? And Power Girl shows up, passed out, ends up conking her head. And then when she comes to, she has amnesia, doesn't know where she is or whatnot. And Harley, just thinking quickly, says, "Oh, you don't remember me and you are a super team. Like we're, like Batman and Robin. Like that's us. We're the biggest thing." Because she just wanted to be a hero and she wanted to be recognized as somebody who did good. The thing is, she never can do it right, messes up. Power Girl finds out, but you actually see for just a smidgen bit that Harley is, she is an abused she wants to do good. She thinks she's not good. And when they do that, it goes beyond the jokes. There's more to some of these characters than jokes. And it's just, the thing is, everybody who writes these characters end up perpetuating what the last asshole did. So then it never changes. It never, I mean, I'm telling you, again, I'm probably not going to convince you, Mark, but it's the same thing that happens with Damian Wayne. For the longest time, Damian shows up, he's an asshole. Damian shows up, he's an asshole. And you're like, well, I know he acts like an asshole, but there's more to it. Why don't you show that? But it's just because the next person shows up and says, what was the last thing? Oh, he was an asshole. He's an asshole. Tom King kind of even still does it. And it just doesn't work. That's not a character. You have to, really go with the character. And legit, and this is kind of off topic as well, Edward, I'll say that in a minute with the... Look at manga. Manga has some of the goofiest characters that are way beyond goofier than, say, a Gwenpool or a Harley. But the character work is done in a way that you actually care about them, and then you get some chuckles out of them and things. I'll go with one of the characters I love. It became more of a big thing because of anime and things like that. But Gigi from Dan to Dan, if you know what I'm talking about. Guy shows up, he's in tracksuits like he's freaking Liam Gallagher. He's doing crazy poses, he's flashing gang signs. He's just a goofball. And then you see him become a hero. Then you see that he cares for people. Then you see him act, and all of a sudden, it's not just a joke. That's a facet of his character. And then you realize, oh, he's insecure, so he does that, or he's this, or he doesn't know better. And that's when I think real things happen. And I think that manga is a great example of some of the most ridiculous characters that, I mean, Chainsaw Man, Denji, one of the greatest characters of all time. You feel from the first chapter, you'd almost like go to war with him because you feel so bad for how down and out he is. But really, he is a goofy, sex-crazed, ridiculous character who then develops and you love him more. And then you get Pochita involved, who's just this, cute as a button, a dog with a chainsaw sticking out his face. I mean, it proves the deal. And I think that what happens when you do, and we talked about it earlier, if somebody said, oh, what character would you write? I probably would pick somebody like a Gwenpool or something, because I would want to care about that and just at least give it the shot. I'm going to give it a shot where it may suck. People might hate it. They may never accept it, but I'm going to give it a shot and try to prove, listen, this is how you can write this character if you do love the character, not just assign the character. So there you go. But Edward says, off topic, but really enjoyed the Sus Records dance party live feed last night. Read a bunch of comics while listening to the tunes. And if you don't know, I have another YouTube channel, which is a tiny bit more popular. It's a slightly bit. I mean, I think that by maybe next month, I could be at 50,000 subscribers over there. A little bit more than the comics. But again, it is a little bit of, not safe for work songs. I like to write dirty songs in the way of talking a lot about, butts and poops and, that sort of thing. But I do them in the vein of like, what I love to do is do these songs and somebody's like, that really sounds like an R&B song from the 60s. And I get a kick out of it. I like doing it. People seem to respond to it pretty well. And I just started last night, I started a live stream where I think I'm going to do it every Saturday. That is a dance party, I call it, but it's just kind of hanging out and playing some music and talking about it, having some fun, making jokes and things like that. So it is something. And Edward said it was kind of fun to have it in the background while he read comics. But yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes. It's Sus Records. You can look it up, but it's actually Sus Records CEO is the actual thing. And again, you can end up, liking the song. If you don't, if that's not your thing. And there are a lot of songs like the things that I do. I'm not the only one doing it. I would like to think that mine are the best, but that's just because I'm a little biased. But it does end up having some a little bit. But I ended up being in a band in college, and I do love music, so it's kind of an outlet for that. But I do like doing it. And maybe I'll play. I could play a song out. I could play the last song that I played last night. Brandon said the last song was about needing it deeper. That was one of them. And again, no F-bombs or anything like that, but sometimes, some curse words and some blue material. I work blue. The lazy man's comedy, as Steve Smith said in the in the American Dad. But that's it for the best of. I'll play out a song. I got to find one that maybe would. Now I'm thinking that I have to impress people. This is not going to impress people, but it's the stuff that makes me giggle. And I actually do dance along myself because I think it's funny. But let me find one. On the Sus Records dance party, I would take requests, but since we're not there, people wouldn't know what to even ask for. But I'm going to look here. And if you like it, just maybe check out the Sus Records. You might find some fun things and join in on the dance party. So I'm going to look here. I do have that. I do have one that's, I could put that. There, I have a remix of a song that I could put. Now, anybody, do you want, what do you want? Do you want R&B? Do you want 40s or 50s? Do you want country? There's, you have a lot. We even have some heavy metal, but not as much heavy metal. Yeah. I'm telling you, VNet Fed said he listened to a Anita Ward song and instantly thought of Sus Records. That's mission accomplished. Some people end up where they get mad. They're like, I listened to this like 10 times and thought it was real. I'm like, mission accomplished. That's my catch, mission accomplished, because that's all it is. 50s, you say. I have a lot of 50s stuff, but what would I do? I think I played the one song from the 50s already, but I might play this one again. If we go 50s, we'll go. And two people with 50s, so I'm going to do that. It's a song about a lady who is, and I do think this is by the famed artist, Wilma Dickfit. Jack Halsey says R&B, so I think I'm going to play two. We'll go out of this with two, just as a joke. I know this isn't appropriate for this, thing, but I will end up with, I'm trying to think of I'll think of no double bass pedal going. Yeah, no, there's no double bass. There might be in the heavy metal song. But for the R&B, I think I will go with one here. I'll go here. Let me see. Okay. I have two songs going. I believe that the R&B song is either by the ATMs or the Love Dumpsters. I'm not sure. But we're going to go with Wilma Dickfit to start out, and then we'll go with the next. And legit, if you do come over to the channel, some of the fun things are looking at the comments. The comments are hilarious. People go with the joke. It's just all for a joke. But we'll get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, I hope that you guys found a bunch of books that you liked. And then tomorrow night at 9, we will start up the new week by having our preview show. And there are some pretty cool things. There was a lot of David Lee Roth. Diamond Dave was coming out a lot at the end of the extra part of the absolute DC with the Batman. At the end, I think I went a little too far with that. But here we go. This will make no sense. But hey, everybody, enjoy. Here we get it. Is the stop the wow. I love David Lee Roth so much. But here we go. We'll have two songs out. One 50s, one R&B. I hope you enjoy them. Check out the show notes to everything we do, including Sus Records, and I will talk to you later.
I don't want to seem forward, but I'd like to see you tonight. Maybe we can have a late dinner and take a walk under the moonlight. And when you take me home, that's when the real fun begins. I don't want to be alone, so I invite you in. And if you don't know what to do to me, here's a suggestion or three. Do you want to fondle my tits? Can you find a face for me where I can sit? Maybe you can do me so hard that I lose my wits. Yes, but first off, do you want to fondle my tits? Now we understand each other, we can just cut to the chase. Maybe you can give me a cream pie or finish all over my face. We can just keep on hopping till we see the break of dawn. My bones are made for jumping, and I just mowed my lawn. But if you still don't know what to do, I have some questions I'd like to ask you. Do you want to fondle my tits? Can you find a face for me where I can sit? Maybe you can do me so hard that I lose my wits. Yes, but first off, do you want to fondle my tits? While you're deciding, maybe I can play with your nuts. I can even run my tongue from them all the way back to your butt. And while that's going on, I think you'll see just what you can do to me. Do you want to fondle my tits? Can you find a face for me where I can sit? Maybe you can do me so hard that I lose my wits. Yes, but first off, do you want to fondle my tits? Come on and fondle my tits.
Just to make you smile. You are never alone. Call me up and your mind will be blown. I know sometimes life gets you down, but baby, I'm always around. And next time you wanna scream and shout, honey, let me use my mouth. There's no need to pretend. I know you're upset. I'll be here till the end. Don't you ever forget, because wherever you decide to go, baby, I'll follow. When everything in life sucks, baby, I'll swallow. Baby, I'll swallow. I hope you understand me now and know that I care. Please don't ever shoot me down. Instead, shoot it in my hair. Please give me a chance. Let me get into your underpants. Yeah. I know it seems like things won't last, but honey, I hope you last. And next time you want to scream and shout, honey, let me use my mouth. There's no need to explain. You know what to do. Just take out your main vein and then give me your goo. Because wherever you decide to go, baby, I'll follow. I'll follow. When everything in your life sucks, baby, I'll swallow. I'll swallow. Baby, I'll swallow. I'm here to do anything that upset about, honey, just finish in my mouth. Because wherever you decide to go, baby, I'll follow, I'll follow. When everything in your life sucks, baby, I'll swallow, swallow. When everything in your life sucks, baby, I'll swallow, baby, I'll swallow. Whenever you decide to go, baby, I'll follow, I'll follow. When everything in your life sucks, baby, I'll swallow, I'll swallow. Whenever you decide to go, baby, I'll follow, I'll